All right, everybody. I think we're ready to get started. So, welcome to another episode here on the Sitrep Podcast stream. We're going to be taking a little bit of a look. So, no live game today. There's a lot of other stuff going on. So, we are instead going to shift gears a little bit and head back over to the 13 days to 13 hours project that we've been working on for some time now. Hello, because science teacher. Hello, guys. Everybody, welcome to the stream. We're live on both YouTube and on Twitch. I believe we're also live on Facebook. So if you're on Facebook and you drop a comment and we don't reply, I do apologize. I don't have visibility into Facebook at the moment. We're looking at everybody's comments over here on Twitch and on YouTube. But for now, we're going to go ahead and get started. All right, so for anyone who might be new to the channel or might be new to the stream, again, this is a project we were working on pretty heavily the beginning part of the year, and then the whole COVID-19 thing kind of blew up, and we went on summer break, and we're trying to get back into it now. So this is a bit of a resurrected project that we are now recommitted to completion by the fall. If you've been listening to our recent podcast streams, we're committed to getting this thing done in time for its anniversary. Like most things we do, actually, like all things we do here on Sitrep Podcast, our games and our projects and our hobby is related to a real life event. It either directly recreates it or is somehow related to it, and might not recreate it, shot for shot. We certainly don't look for the same results every time. Again, it is a war game, so we are trying to just take another look at it and see if we can maybe come up with some different results. Specifically, 13 days to 13 hours refers to the 13 hours, infamously, the 2012 Benghazi attacks on the U.S. Mission in Benghazi, Libya, and the associated embassy annex complex nearby. So the project, in broad strokes, is going to be G and Marty and Gaz building the figures and building the table. Hello, Gaz. Welcome to the stream. The stream is going to be G and Marty and Gaz building the actual compound and the miniatures for a 28mm game that recreates the Libyan insurgent attack against the U.S. It's not quite the embassy. It's like the embassy annex, or it's the embassy mission compound, where there are some people that are trying to defend it, and they're in real trouble, and they need help right away. One of the things that happened is about 2 miles away by road, 1.1 miles away as actually about 1.2 kilometers away as the crow flies. There is a CIA presence in the embassy annex. It's another little building a little bit further away to the southeast, where there are 6 military contractors, private military contractors. They're former military. They're not in the military technically at the moment, but they are former military. They are now technically civilians in a PMC firm, a private military contracting firm known as GRS. And they are desperate to get to the embassy compound that's under attack and help those people out that are in real trouble over there. There's a lot of controversy, folks. For people here in the States, obviously you guys know there's a lot of politics around this, so we're going to steer clear of all that mess. There are a lot of red versus blue blame going on this one. So we're going to steer clear of that. But as far as the military situation on the ground went at the moment, there was controversy about who was given orders to stand down, who was told to stay put, who was given permission to go, and when. The long and short of it is, the GRS guys did not leave to get to the embassy compound under attack for at least 35 to 45 crucial minutes. Because of various things, which I'm not even going to try and get into because it's a pit of quicksand. That starts in Washington and goes all the way to Benghazi and back again. So, leaving that aside, we are going to postulate in what we call the transit game what had happened, what could have happened if the GRS team was able to leave like immediately and try to get across these towns, across these town streets, across these neighborhoods in Benghazi, and get to the actual site that was under attack. So we've been doing a lot of research on what the actual situation was, and we've been building a map. So we had a map for a while. You guys probably saw some of our streams where we were building some actual buildings. Then I realized that we're talking about an area of at least several square miles. And if I try to build that map miniature style, even digitally, building by building by building, it's just not going to work. Even if I could create that, even if I wanted to put in the weeks or months of work that it would take to do that, which I could, it wouldn't be that hard. The problem would be, subsequently, the file would be unworkable as a game board, as a virtual game board. It would be too big to load into any of our platforms. Even if we could get it to load and we went to scroll around it and move units around, there'd be a lot of lag and so on and so forth. Once we got it done, we would have to dummy it down resolution-wise to the point where it was workable, and then we've lost all the work that we've done as far as, the crisp, clear buildings. So again, I decided to kind of step back from that approach. I pretty much, I don't want to say trashed all the work, but I repurposed all the work that I put into the building so far, and I pretty much started over from scratch using a new approach. So this is what we've got so far. Let me go ahead and zoom in a little bit. Alright, so this is just like a working copy so far. This map is not quite finished, but it's definitely getting there. Here were the steps that were taken to kind of get this done. So going to, first of all, finding out where exactly this place was, and getting over to Google or to Google Earth to get some satellite imagery of the actual neighborhoods in question, and sort of locking in where these buildings were, where the gates were, where the roads were, what the conditions of the roads were. There was a little bit of research involved in that. This is a carefully spliced together composite of about 20 images. Well, not quite 20, 6 by 3, 18 images, 6 across and 3 deep. 18 images out of Google Earth satellite imagery of the actual location where this really did take place. So this is not a drawing. This is a photograph. So we have like absolutely accurate images of how this area looks. Though some of the buildings might be slightly out of date. That's the only real problem we have now, is that some of the buildings that were up in 2012 might have been knocked down by then, or vice versa, or who knows what. But where the neighborhoods are, where the actual buildings in question are, and where the streets are definitely accurate. So this is the map as it appears in its raw form. Obviously, it's very ugly. It's way too red and way too yellow. I'm going to get a headache just looking at it here. So the first thing we did was we sort of changed its color composition a little bit, which it's not going to do for me. Where are we at? Okay, there we go. So we changed its color composition a little bit, made it look a little bit more like the stereotypical desert. I stress the word stereotypical. And sort of muted the contrast and the color, so it's not quite such an eyesore. We didn't want it to be so horrific as far as, because again, if you're going to be gaming on this, and again, right now we're zoomed out to 25%. When you're actually gaming on this board, you're going to be zoomed in a lot. So the last thing we want to do is give anybody a headache. I was going to say that I've seen you build it myself. Would you say, team? I was going to say I've seen you build it myself. Okay, I don't quite understand that, but I'll come back to that later. So this was sort of the map that we started with. I then, just for fun, put a night filter over it, and that's what the night filter looks like. Because of course this battle takes place at night. We wanted to give it a nighttime feel, and I put a green tint in it to give it that night vision goggle look, that night vision sort of an effect. Of course, the battle doesn't really look like this. That whole green matrix-looking tint is just strictly an affectation. But again, when you're designing a wargame map, you're trying to make something that's visually appealing as well and thematic, as well as historically accurate. And then on top of that, there is a hex grid, because Oriskany. So the hex grid might be a little faint right now. That's on purpose. I'm going to go ahead and duplicate it to make it pop a little bit more. Okay, so hopefully you guys can see that a little bit more. Okay, Typos says, because science teacher, I was talking about, I have seen you already build this map before, but you explained, yeah, I'm totally starting over. What I was doing before Glades Runner is I was building the buildings individually. And the idea was, okay, once I get a better idea about where this event took place and what the geography was like, I'm just going to have a library of about 20 to 25, maybe up to 30 pre-made transparent background PNG formatted building images that I can literally just scatter across a table, almost like real, 28 millimeter terrain. You buy a bunch of buildings, you build them, you paint them, and you put them in a drawer, and when you go to set up a table, you put down a mat and you throw in some buildings and you're ready to go. That's kind of what I was trying to do here in a virtual sense. The problem was the geographic area covered by this event is just way too big. I'll talk about the scale of this map in just a second here, but as you can see, it's a sizable part of southern Benghazi. So there's a little bit going on here. And to do it the way I was originally envisioning would have been just gigantic file. Each one of those buildings was about half a meg. And how many buildings do you see on this map? So if I had put in my own buildings, instead of just using these buildings here, this is about how many buildings I would have needed, which wouldn't have been hard, but I would have wound up with a file a gig in size. And then you try to game on that, it's just not going to work. And then by the time you get the file to where you could game on it, you've kind of pissed away all the resolution that you cranked into it by building all those individual buildings. So it was a no-win situation. I saw what was coming, I stepped back, and I started over. You must be flexible in your planning. Rule number 723 of military operations. It would have been insane. Either too high of a res file that I couldn't use, and then by the time we made it, we could use it, you would have lost all that resolution. So it was a no-win. It was a no-win. I could see where the road was leading. I said, you know what? Let's just try a different way. Okay, so like I said, then we have our hex grid, because we're going to do this as a generally, I know I say it's a hex grid game, it's got a hex grid on it, so it's a hex grid game. I'm sort of visualizing this more like a zone game. I don't want to say like Chutes and Ladders. I don't want it to make it be like Chutes and Ladders. Or Snakes and Ladders as they call it in the UK, or who knows. Hello, Chip. Thank you very much for coming by our stream. Yeah, we're taking another look at 13 hours to 13 days. We are desperately trying to get this project reinitialized after our summer break, tandem with COVID-19 nonsense. So, again, this incident took place on the night of September 11th to 12th, 2012. I'm not going to stick my foot in my mouth because our team has already done that. We have committed live on podcast and published it out to our community that we are committed to getting this done, these games played and run and done by or on the date, September 12th, 2020. So stay tuned for that. Needless to say, I don't like deadlines creeping up on me. I don't like deadlines at all. So I attack. When in doubt, go for it. We are going to strike first and strike hard. I think Bismarck said, not only strike when the iron is hot, but make the iron hot by striking. I'm going to go ahead and get this transit game done months in advance so that no matter what, we don't miss it, at least because of me. So again, we started working on it. So September 12th is the date that we're going for. That is a dangerous promise. Yeah, but I mean, maybe it depends on what the team does. Glaze Runner, it's all good. Um, I personally, I can't make any promises for the team. Personally, the transit game's going to be done. I can promise you that, come hell or high water. As far as whether or not they can build an 8x4 recreation of this compound that we see up here, um, I know Gaz has been working on the figures. I know most of the figures are now done. Gaz has been putting in tons of work on this through the previous weeks and months, building up just huge numbers of insurgents and operators that we're now going to ship over to Chicago and get set up on this table. I think the only major part left is actually building the table, and that is up to G and Marty. So we'll stay tuned for that. I have all confidence that they're going to get it done. I'm just saying that I'm not in charge of that part. I'm not really involved in that part. I'm in charge and involved with the transit game, which is why I'm sort of lighting the fire under my own ass a little bit here to get this done. Okay, so like I said, this is the map of the actual photographed area that was kind of spliced together. You could have gotten all this in one big screen cap. You could have done it the easy way, right out of Google Images, or right out of, Google Images has a bunch, or Google Earth, or any other satellite kind of a portal or platform. The resolution's not really there. You can't export that directly from the platform. You have to do like some kind of bullshit screen capture or something, and that's fine, except you lose a lot of your resolution that way. So this is a spliced together assembly of 18 images, 6 across and 3 down, of satellite images that are sort of composited together into a look at the U.S. Embassy and Annex in Benghazi. So I've gathered the intelligence. If I suddenly vanish off the podcast, you guys know that the NSA has come and found me for gathering too much intelligence. But in all seriousness, we have our map. Again, Chip, what we've done is we put a night NVG, sort of a dark green filter over it to make it look like, well, not to make it look like, but to kind of give it like that suggestion of a night battle through night vision gear. And yeah, so here we are. So here are the 3 main historical. Let me get a little new layer going here. Layer, new layer. We're going to call it scribble because I like to scribble. And we're going to put scribble up here on top. Okay, we are now ready to scribble. My favorite thing to do. Okay, so we've got the 3 main sort of, or really two main historical points in contention here for the 13 hours game. Here we have the annex. I'm sorry, not the annex, the actual embassy compound. So this is the 8x4 table that they're going to be building up there in Chicago. What I did not know was that the front gate was to the north. Almost all images that you find on the web or whatever sort of put the front gate at the bottom of the image. What they're showing you is not a south to north sort of an image like we're used to. South is on the bottom, north is on the top, but they have that inversed for some reason, where north is on the bottom. So again, the front gate and a major spawn point that we're going to have for our insurgents are going to be up here at the north part of the compound. The north part of the compound is where the main gate was, and that's where the largest insurgent crowd was gathered for the against the oops, sorry about that. Trying to talk and work Photoshop at the same time. The north part of the compound is where the main crowd was, is where the main gate was, and that's also where the guard barracks is. This is the guards barracks. This is the actual embassy building, or I keep calling it the embassy building. It's like the embassy mission. This is the soccer field that I think features prominently in the movie. This is an adjacent empty property that is an empty lot now. It was an empty lot pretty much at the time. The U.S. did also, I think, occupy this building, although it didn't really come into the battle. I'm not sure what it was there for. It was like an additional annex building. And then we have here a back gate. So there were 2 gates to get into this place, and there was also a small crowd going on outside that back gate. So I know what the GRS team did historically. That's all fine and dandy. I'm making sure that the GRS player, I'm pretty sure that's going to be Jenna and Marty, have plenty of options. So they have to they start off here in the CIA, they call it the CIA annex. The CIA was there. It was the embassy annex. Down here is the U.S. Embassy Mission Annex, down here. This is where they started at. Okay, and there's a gate leading to the south. They have to leave that hex from the southern side, just like that. Okay? So that's where they start at, and their job is to get any way they can to primary objective or secondary objective. They're trying to reach either hex number 1 or hex number 2 of the embassy annex. That's what they're trying to reach. One of those 2 hexes. They have to go through either this hex or through this hex. The scale of the map is 20 hexes to a mile, 12 hexes to a kilometer, approximately, or it comes out to a rough yards number. It's like 90 yards to the hex, 270 feet. I know that's kind of weird, but I was going more by miles and kilometers. And 5,280 feet divided into 3 yards, divided into 100-meter hexes. It doesn't really work out yet. So that is what we're looking at as far as the scale of the map goes. The scale of the map is almost perfect as far as its reality goes. If you count the number of hexes that a team would have to use to get there by the shortest route. Oops, forget that last one. And then you kind of go this way. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. It is just short of a mile. I think it's 1.1 miles in real life. Oh, you know why? Because I didn't, I measured it by this road, which isn't really there. Okay, cool. That's how I got 21 hexes. So, it's close. It's about 20 hexes to the mile. And that's the scale of the game. Now, historically, the GRS route took this, or the GRS team took this route. They start off here in the annex. They came out, and this is confirmed now in some declassified reports. They went down to this street, then they went north. They went up this way, up here. Oops, I overdid that last part there. Hold on. My hand slipped on the mouse here. No, I am not turning on my Wacom pad because every time I try to Twitch stream while I'm using my Wacom pad, I get issues. The Wacom pad and what OBS does to my display driver do not play nice. That was the route they used in real life. That is an option for the team here on our Sitrep Podcast game that we're going to have. It is not the only one. You can get there any way you want. Any way you want. And I'll explain the rules of the game excuse me. I'll explain the rules of the game that we're going to be doing a little bit later. But the rules of the game offer different benefits and penalties, different pros and cons for different kinds of routes. So you can take a smaller road, like if you want, you can kind of sneak in this way, and then you can go down through these side alleys. Look at these little tiny dirt roads. You can even off-road a little bit if you want to, like across like green fields. It's going to be slower, but you're going to run across fewer. Like you can do something like that if you want. You can go down this road, turn north, go down to this little cul-de-sac, and then off-road it through this guy's backyard, get to this highway and kind of come like this. Or you can, let's see, what else can you do? Here, off-road it this way, come up. Well, now you're kind of you're kind of stuck. But there's a little bit of you can off-road a little bit, come here. There are different routes that you can probably take. The easier the route, as far as the roads go, which is more or less what the GRS team did. They stuck to the main surfaced roads. You have a much higher movement rate. They stuck on the main like 2 or 4 lane paved like highways. Like this road here is 2 lanes in each direction plus a median. This is a major highway that goes down through here. So you can either do that like they did. The problem is that's where most of the mobs are and where the insurgents have set up the roadblocks most likely. So it's fast but high risk. You're going to run into mobs, you're going to run into IEDs, you're going to run into enemy technicals, you're going to run into all kinds of problems. Or you can try to be crafty about it and you can take a slower route and avoid the mobs this way. And I'm going to get into how the mobs are going to work in this game in just a second. But again, that is more or less what we're looking at the moment as far as our table goes. The only possible issue I see with the table right now is it might not be immediately clear to the GRS player where the secondary roads are. At least like tiny little sand lots and gravel paths between people's backyards and things like that. If you want to stick to the main roads the way the GRS team did historically, the map's ready to go right now. Literally, it's camera ready right now. And I'll show you how it's going to look in actual Excel game board in just a second. But as far as if the GRS player wants to start looking at alternate avenues of approach, probably one of the more likely ones is here. Something like this. Where the actual roads are and like what condition they're in start to become a little bit, you're going through like these side streets and back alleys trying to get to where the enemy are trying to get to your objective as soon as you can. Just taking a look at Mr. Chat here. What's going on? Hello, everybody. Hello. I'm just looking at everybody who's there. Welcome, everybody who's on the chat. We are seeing more numbers here. Cool. Drop a comment if you want, or if not, no worries. We just appreciate you coming out. We appreciate any support we can get. Okay. So that's our map for now. I might accent the secondary roads a little bit. I'm just not entirely sure how I'm going to do that. Those may just be like table questions that we resolve on the day. I mean, why kill ourselves on 10,000 different issues here? So cool. Over to Excel. We have been working on a rule system. So this is the actual rules mechanic that we are building up to sort of play this. Marty, what's going on, sir? I think we should also via hello and skip the roads. We should also have an 810 air support. Well, I can make the pieces for you if you want, Marty. It won't be terribly historically accurate, but hey, what do I care? I think to a large extent we're basing this off a Michael Bay movie. So the whole idea of historical accuracy has already kind of flown the coop, so to speak. Yeah, bring in a battleship. I mean, it's fine. 40K Space Marines. No, but in all seriousness, these are the rule system that we are, again, this is not an entire rule set. This is just the beginning sort of series of us brainstorming ideas here. This game is very small. The entire GRS force is exactly, I think, 7 people. 6 actual operators and a unarmed interpreter. Or it might have been 5 GRS operators and an unarmed interpreter. It's 6 or 7 guys total. 2 vehicles. I'm getting conflicting reports whether or not it was 2 SUVs or an SUV and a armored Mercedes sedan. I am going to be prepared for both so that we can do it however we want. As far as what vehicles were actually there, and tons of insurgents. Now those insurgents are going to be. Okay. Let's back up a second. When Gianna first kind of came up with this idea and asked me if I wanted to help, obviously I said yes because Sitrep team. I'll do what the team is really into. This kind of super high tech, super modern, super badass operator stuff is not really my cup of tea as far as what kind of warfare I'm interested in or whatever. Super elite guys, that's fine. we start to think of them a little bit too much as superheroes or whatever. However, number one, I would definitely do it because, it's a team thing and, I'm part of the team. But what made me interested in it personally as a game designer was the idea that the militia that the GRS is going to be up against is going to be extremely nebulous. Now, we've all seen nebulous militia rules in modern war games before. Contact Front, Skirmish Sanguine, Force on Force does a great job with this. 13 hours, the Benghazi incident is takes that whole nebulous militia concept to a new order of magnitude. That was probably the world's worst delivered sentence since Joe Biden's last press release. Sorry. But in all seriousness, the idea that militia forces could appear and either join one side or the other or neither, and then literally switch sides in the middle of a battle, was actually pretty. It was an interesting challenge. Whether or not I could do that in a war game. So that is the bulk of what we are looking at here. So the turn sequence is going to be very briefly. Determine the threat level. This is more or less the street's mood. So as the GRS guys go out into the road to start driving towards the annex, the street is going to have a certain threat level. There are 5 threat levels. Hostile, agitated. Hostile's the worst. Agitated. Tense is, it's tense. It's Benghazi 2012. Then it's go to quiet, and then the best one is serene. It's like, Deerfield Beach, like right now. It's totally calm. That's the best it can get. I don't think we're going to see very much serene. We might see some hostile, but we're going to start off at tense. We're going to start off right in the middle. Okay? I believe. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to, based on what happened last turn, the GRS is going to be able to affect the mood of the street, so to speak. If they go out there guns blazing and immediately start shooting up people everywhere they go, running into mobs, setting off IEDs, and shooting insurgents that are already out in the street is going to start off with tons of insurgents. Those insurgents may not be hostile. If you start shooting at them, they're going to become hostile. And there's a actual mechanic that's going to track that and allow both sides to kind of keep this. It's going to allow both players, I should say, to affect the mood of the street. The insurgent player, I believe that's going to be Gas. His object is going to be make the streets as hostile as possible. His part of his mission is just to stir up some shit. He's an insurgent, and the angrier the street is, the angrier the town is, the city is, the better his reinforcements are going to be. Every turn he gets a different street event table roll, and that is going to be based on, the threat level is going to modify this roll. So we see what happens with the threat level, and the threat tracker, goes up and down. The quieter the streets, that's a negative result on this table. I'm sorry, it's a positive result on this table. If the street is in a pissed off mood, it's a negative result on this table. So if the streets are calm and chill and quiet, we're probably going to see more ambivalent or unknown militia show up, more civilians, and even friendly militia. Those are the February 17th militia guys that pop up. The angrier the street gets, we're going to see more and more hostiles, more and more roadblocks, more and more IEDs. This stuff just pops up in the insurgent player's force pool, and he gets to put it down at the beginning of his turn. So it behooves the GRS player to be as cool and as quiet as possible, and the insurgent player is going to do his best to not give him that choice. So as you can see, there are some modifiers here. If the GRS shot at people, if there was an explosion on the street, or if the GRS is on an open road, on a good street. Those are those nice big paved roads. If you stay off the main roads, you're going to avoid this penalty. However, you get positive penalties for the GRS player if you made a successful interpreter check. Again, there's an interpreter out there that's trying to talk to people and calm things down. And if the GRS did not shoot at anybody last turn. So we aggregate all those penalties, we aggregate all those modifiers together. We make a roll on the threat. I'm sorry. Where is the? Oh, there it is. We roll 2d6. We find out if it got one step better, one step worse, or if it's stable. So whatever it was last turn, it's either going to stay where it is, it's going to go down, it's going to go up. Once we know what the new turn's street level is, or threat tracker, we apply that +1, +2, -1, -2 modifier to the street event table. And that's where we either get new mobs, new militia, or just, street problems pop up. Okay, we set up the table, and then we do movement. Civilian vehicles are randomized, then civilian foot traffic. Ambivalent and unknown vehicles are then moved, then they're foot people. Hostile vehicles, and then hostile foot units move. So first thing that's going to move is any civilian vehicles on the table. Those are randomized. We roll an odd number. We roll a dice. Odds, the GRS player gets to move it. Evens, the insurgent player gets to move it. Then we do ambivalent and unknown vehicles and foot traffic or whatever. We might combine these two into one turn, but we'll figure it out. Then hostile vehicles and foot units, or insurgent, pedestrian units, are going to move obviously by the enemy player. And then the GRS vehicles and any of them that are on foot. We're going to have to get the GRS guys on foot at least once in the game. And I'll explain that in just a second. If you are in the same or adjacent as any militia, at the end of your movement phase, the interpreter gets to make a check, and he can calm things down. There's also a modifier in case the interpreter is wounded. And then if he's talking to unknown or friendly militia, or if he's talking to overtly already hostile, he can kind of talk them down. It's a tougher roll. It's a 5+ on a d6, but he gets a chance. And again, the success or failure of that interpreter check is what we were talking about back here. So he can affect the level of the street next turn. Again, for the Americans, for the GRS, this is all about just keeping the street as cool as possible, or as calm as possible. And of course, the insurgent player has the obviously inverse object. The object, of course, is for the GRS to get to the embassy, and the insurgent player is trying to stop him. But the best way you can do that, probably even more than shooting at people, is to calm the street down or get the street as agitated as possible. So this was at least for the moment, my favorite part of the game is the militia event table, or the militia event column in the street event table. So at the beginning of every turn, again, depending on the street level, we're going to see whether or not, again, high roll is better, low roll is bad for the GRS, and there's a negative or positive modifier depending on the mood of the street per the threat tracker. We've gone over a couple times now. But we're going to see militia. The militia have 3 basic states: hostile, ambivalent, or friendly. And they can switch between those 3 states. You can have hostile militia. They pop up, all infuriated, death to America, Allahu Akbar, and all that nonsense, guns blazing. And if the interpreter can keep things calm, and if the street can be kept calm or whatever, there's not a lot of gunfire or explosions in the street. Again, those are all these modifiers that we're looking at back here. What they'll do, depending on the die roll, there's a really good chance that they will start to drop in agitation level. What they do is they go out there, they see there's nothing really going on, they decide to start looting TVs or something instead, or fighting other militia, or who knows what they're doing. They're not fighting at the GRS. And then they become ambivalent militia. If shots are then fired, they may become hostile again. Meanwhile, ambivalent militia can kind of come out here and say, what the hell's going on? And if the GRS is cool and the interpreter talks to them and says, look, we're just trying to get to the embassy and help our people, they might join up. We've also got the ambivalent, I'm sorry, that was the ambivalent militia. We have the friendly militia, the guys that come out as the February 17th militia. If too much crazy shit's happening, too much gunfire, too many explosions, they become ambivalent. They just leave. Hey, this is too crazy. We don't get paid for all this stuff. And, obviously the February 17th militia historically wasn't terribly reliable on the day. I think they were disbanded very shortly after this incident. But one of the things that really interested me in this project was the idea that the militia will literally change sides. Will a hostile militia become friendly? I doubt it, but it's mathematically possible. It is totally mathematically possible. There's all kinds of narrative reasons that could happen. You know, again, a lot of these guys belonged to more than one militia and didn't tell other militias or whatever. You know, they had, well, my brother's in the hostile militia, but you know, the Sword of Allah or whoever, you know, the hostile militia was, but my cousin and my wife's brother-in-law or whatever are in February 17th. They go out there, they get into a battle. Depending on what the street is, he may decide to throw in his lot with this militia instead of that militia. So it's possible that straight out friendly militia could become straight out hostile, and straight out hostile militia can become straight out friendly, but they'd have to make two of these jumps. And unless it turns into a really long game where there's some really wild events, I don't think it's going to happen, but it's possible. Much more likely we're going to see a lot of hostile become ambivalent, a lot of friendly become ambivalent, and a lot of ambivalent become either hostile or friendly. We're going to see a lot of that, which is, you know, kind of what we're aiming at there. That's the interesting part of the game, at least if you ask me. After that, it's just the usual, hey, look, here's a dice to shoot at people, and here's a dice to attack people, and here's the defense dice, and here's the wound table. And after that, it gets very, you know, very, I don't want to say pedestrian, but it becomes very typical of a skirmish level war game. A marksman or a carbine or a grenade or whatever, you know, the GRS has a certain number of attack dice. You roll that number of attack dice. Meanwhile, whoever you're shooting at rolls defense dice. You get a modifier to it. Whichever roll is higher prevails. If the defense dice is higher, it was a miss. If the attack dice was higher, it's a hit. And then you see what the wound effect was. Hooray for the good guys. And, you know, that's it. After that, it gets pretty basic. But, yeah, we got medic checks, we got bleed out checks, and, you know, combat. That's going to be pretty typical. The only part of the game that's going to be, if it goes well, interesting. If it goes badly, a challenge, is going to be this whole militia, this nebulous militia dynamic. This is going to be a big challenge for Gaz, because Gaz is literally a commander who's not really in control of his own force. Welcome to the militia. This is what happens when you don't train your people. You know, who knows? He might go out there with additional forces, and they might turn ambivalent, and then those ambivalent forces might turn hostile against them. You never know. Again, mathematically a stretch, but it is technically possible. All right, so here is our map. Over to a Excel spreadsheet, where we are looking at whether or not this actually works. This is a test platform, guys. We're not really... whoa, I zoomed in way too much. So this is pretty much a resolution test. Are the pieces going to... We all remember we made all these pieces. Are the pieces still going to look okay? Zoomed, or I should say reduced to the point where they can actually fit in the hexes. Meanwhile, as I expand the map and I make the hexes bigger and bigger and bigger, are the hexes going to lose their resolution? And it looks okay. Again, these hexes are 100 or just short of 100 meters across. So obviously, guys, the miniatures or the gaming pieces are not in scale with the map. This is almost like a hex encounter game, just with some kind of bizarre, what the hell? With some bizarre counters. So here we have a GRS operator. He gets to move wherever he wants. You can fit a whole bunch of them in a hex. They can have different facings. We've done this kind of gaming before. They can pile into their SUV or their Mercedes vehicle, you know, depending on what we're doing. And after that, it's pretty easy. The vehicle can move around through streets and have different facings. Of course, we have literally hundreds of militia. There will never be 100. There's Jen's special militia, by the way, with her crazy color scheme. Here's a guy with no shirt on because reasons. And then here's our guy with our weird football jersey that never got duplicated, by the way, in miniature. I'm just kind of saying out there. Marty and Gaz. Sorry. Got a guy with his wife beater on there. Anyway, you guys saw these videos, so I won't go through it all again. We made these Photoshop templates in such a way where you can literally switch. If you do the math, it comes out to hundreds of combinations between weapons, hairstyles, beards, shirts, hats, shoes. Hell yeah, blue flip-flops for the win. You know that's in there. And so on. Obviously, we had a little bit of fun with our insurgents because, I mean, whatever. Here's old Grandpa Jones here with his gray beard. He's probably the guy in charge. Now, what we're going to do, in fact, I'll probably go ahead and start working on that right now. is actually assigning who these people actually are. And I wanted to make that editable in not Photoshop, in, let me try and get them all together here. I wanted to make that editable in Excel so that we could make the changes if new information came to light, if we wanted to make a change, if the playing piece here in our virtual game board did not match what we would see later on in the, oh no, did not match what we would see later on in the miniature painting. Not that it really has to match, but that's fun. Why not? Especially since it's so easy for me to make a change. So if the guy's painting a miniature up in a green shirt and black pants, or a blue shirt and tan pants, or whatever, and I can then change it in Photoshop super fast, super easy, so that the miniatures match the actual compound assault game that's going to take place in 28mm miniature up there in the Midwest. So let me hopefully. Cool. Alright, so now they're all set up the right way. Alright guys, this is where I'm going to lean on my team a little bit for some research. I've got the basics down, but bear with me just a moment. Alright, so definitely we're going to get rid of that border. No border, please. No fill, please. We're going to make the text a bright yellow. Because actually, let's keep everything green. Because apparently we have like a green theme going on here. Let's get that nice, bright, horrible NVG green going here. Okay. Alrighty, so zoom out a little bit. I've got my pavement background going on my spreadsheet so that when we have a little bit of lag, we're not looking just at a white grid, because who needs that? Okay, this is the team that I am aware of. Obviously, by looking at the this little Wikipedia snippet here, we are talking about the movie, which again is absurd, but that's kind of our, I hesitate to say source of truth, but that's kind of what we're using as a generalized basis. I know that's not normally, I won't speak for Sitrep as a team, that's definitely not normally what I do. However, again, a lot of this stuff is still highly controversial, a lot of it's still classified, a lot of it is still highly charged politically. So to avoid all that, we're kind of going into the Michael Bay safe zone, and we're just going to do this based on, the movie a little bit. All right, so where is the operative in shorts? I did no operative in shorts. Do you want an operative in shorts? Did I create an operative in shorts? I don't think I did. I think we were talking about that because there's a guy in shorts in the movie, and I said, no, I'm drawing a line in the sand there. I'm not having a guy running around in shorts. Did I create a guy in shorts? I can go back and do it if you guys are serious about it, but for now the answer is hell no, because of reasons. Okay, so apparently the leader of the GRS team, former U.S. Navy SEAL, his name was Tyrone S. Woods. Great. What was he carrying? Does anyone remember? Was he a marksman, an assault rifle guy with a carbine, or was he carrying the grenade launcher? We also have two guys with saws. So, and that matters because there's a guy with a sharpshooter rifle, the long rifle. There's a guy with the assault rifle, the grenade launcher, another sniper rifle, and an assault gunner, and another. Yeah, so here's another assault gunner. In fact, oh no, I lost the assault gunner. How did I leave behind? I think there were two saw gunners there. So if anyone knows, he'll be there in a minute. Movie combined with the Senate After Action Report. Okay. The movie also took a lot of heat for historical inaccuracies, which is kind of par for the course in a Michael Bay movie. But it is, I don't know enough about the incident in real life to be able to, judge it. So I'm going to change my properties here on my little text box to give myself the most possible room. Okay. And again, one solution would be just to do this in Photoshop and make the piece, but once you do that, it's no longer editable. Okay, like right here, I'm noticing that when I put the name on the thing in on the base in NVG green, so to speak, it becomes a little tough to read. So I'm going to try and change the text to black, and maybe that's a little bit easier to read. So we have to go with the movie. Okay. The weapons moved by the team we have no real info on, so we have to go with the movie. Okay. Again, I've never seen the movie because I don't watch Michael Bay movies. So I'm just going to put these in here for now. Again, this is why I'm making it editable in Photoshop. We can, or not in Photoshop, in Excel. We can totally change this later. But for now, I'm just going to put Roan here. He is, maybe I'll make that bold. It'll be easy to read. Okay, and then you can take the text box, make it a little bit smaller so it fits. Come on. Grab it with your image, group it together, boom. And now you have a single piece that moves wherever you want. Whenever you rotate Roan, his name rotates with him. And we've got a playing piece for Roan. Whether or not Roan was carrying a sniper rifle, a long arm in the movie, I don't know. Someone's going to have to tell me. But for now, he is done. I'm going to take that text box, copy it over. Does anyone know the name of the interpreter? Team member, U.S. Marine, team member, U.S. Marine. Okay, if anyone knows the name of the interpreter in the movie, please let me know, and I'll put him there. There's the interpreter, complete with the plaid shirt. That I don't know if he was wearing a plaid shirt in the movie. Why do we have two interpreters? Go away, second interpreter. It's weird when you think of all the survivors who were in that movie set as experts. Yeah, but it's like what they're allowed to say and what they're not. Again, this is one operator still on V5. I apologize. I don't know what V5 means. Is that a type of a version of a weapon of some kind? Or a unit code name? I apologize, Ship. I don't know what V5 is. Oh, V5. Oh, the hex. Sorry. Yes, I know my own map. I think I moved him. These guys are all insurgents. So hence we have Jen's Knucklehead's color scheme that she demanded that we do, with the bright lime green and purple and so on. We also gave him blue flip-flops for the win. Blue flip-flop brigade also includes our random football jersey. I have no idea if that's a real team, but I just did it to play with Marty and Gaz to make them try and paint that. This is my favorite insurgent. If I was in charge of the insurgents, that's my leader. I mean, check out that shirt, man. I wish I had a shirt like that in real life. I wish I could pull off a shirt like that in real life. Unfortunately, I have accumulated way too many decades and pounds to pull off a shirt like that. That black shirt with the red kind of racing stripes on there, he's badass. So if I were in charge of the insurgents, Gaz, I would make him the leader, but that's up to you. Other possibilities for insurgent leaders are Grandpa Jones over here, only because he's old, he's carrying a pistol. Leaders often carry pistols, and they're often old. Old and wise. Alright, so I don't know who the other guys are, so again, I'm just going to continue to kind of slap the names on here. Silva is team number 3. The interpreter, yes, the interpreter. Marty, does anyone know what the interpreter's name was? Because I've got members here of the team. Unless it was Toby Stevens. I doubt it, because he's a former SEAL. These are the names I have. Obviously, these are the actors, so ignore that. But these are the names I have. And I don't see the interpreter included in here, unless they don't mention it. So if anyone knows the name of the interpreter, I will go ahead and change that. Again, this is why we're keeping these things editable in Excel, so that any mistakes I'm making here, and I'm sure I'm making them, are super easy to fix. It's literally as fast as you can type. So I think one of the Marine Corps guys was a machine gunner. So I'm going to call this guy Tig, because why not? He's probably my favorite operator. dark brick, like maroon colored shirt, and the saw. I carried a saw briefly in my time, so I always have a soft spot when it comes to saws. He's wearing just kick-ass blue jeans just because he gives no shits. All right. Okay, Moadi was the Terp. Okay, cool. Thanks very much. Payment. Okay, cool. I will go ahead and change his name to Moadi. Awesome. Thank you, guys. This is why you're part of a team. M-O-A-A-D-I. And, of course, it doesn't fit. My God. Let me see if I can squeeze something in there. There we go. So he's got his little unpainted K-pot going there. And we now have the interpreter. Awesome. Thanks, guys. I super appreciate it. I'm just going to fill in the rest of the names as far as like what weapons each guy was carrying. Again, we're probably going by the movie. I know there's like, it was an HK G93, but the A5 version, blah, it's fine. Basically, the game's got rifles, or assault carbines, I should say. Assault carbines, sniper rifles, light machine guns, aka parasaws, and the one guy I know was carrying some sort of standalone HK grenade launcher. So if it matters, we're going to go ahead and put them in here. So that guy's TIG. Awesome. Group it this time, dummy. We're also going to make Marty's Mercedes here in just a second. Group. Oh, I got 2 TIGs. Alright, so I got Silva, I got Roan. I got Silva, I got Oz. Cool. Got a quick message from my dad about Father's Day. Happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there today, here in the States and the UK. Oz sounds like a sniper name. I have no idea if that's true, but again, correct me if any of these are wrong. Just call him Mo. I got Moadi to kind of fit on there. Unless they called him Mo in the movie. I don't want people to mistake that for a disrespectful abbreviation of Mohammed or anything like that. So, Boone. Okay, we're gonna put Boone in here. Boone sounds like a grenade launcher guy. Again, I know I'm probably getting these all mixed up, but. Cool. Alright, so we got Boone, we got Oz, we got Tig. These are all matched together. Silva. That's John Krasinski's character. Can anybody buy that fool as an action hero? Or is he always going to be Jim from The Office? God, I hate that guy. And now he's like the new Jack Ryan? Bitch, please. He's no Harrison Ford. Just a personal opinion. Okay, so we got Roan, we got Silva, we got Oz, we got Tig. I don't have a Tonto yet. And that's everybody. Bub, GRS officer in Tripoli, former Navy SEAL. Okay, it says he wasn't a team member. He wasn't one of the 6. So we can add him later. Obviously, we have additional pieces made up for more operators, and obviously we can make up our own operators. We can make up more combinations in our ongoing Photoshop project, so that is super easy. But for now, I'm gonna go, because I already have a guy with this color scheme, right? Saw. No, I don't. I know there was another Saw guy. There were 2 snipers, 2 Saw guys. There cannot be a Tonto. Why can there not be a Tonto? He was in Hex V5 when yeah, I'm sorry, Chip. I didn't see the V5 there for a second. No worries. If memory serves, there were definitely 2 longer rifles there, 2 sniper marksmen. I'll just call them marksmen. 2 marksmen, 2 saw gunners, and 1 grenade launcher guy. So I'm going to make this guy Tonto instead. Alright, so first of all, ungroup this. At least now we're closer. We have the right number of weapons. From what I understand, again, not terribly familiar with the event and definitely didn't see the movie. So if I'm wrong on these, the beauty of it is that it's easy to fix. Again, for the 10th time, this is why I did not do this in Photoshop. Because I would have to go in there and re-put in that gravelly sand kind of a texture underneath it. It would be a pain. Erase the name, which you can't just erase because, again, there's a texture underneath there. Yeah, it's a pain. It's easier just to do it here in Excel. Now I can change it to Marty, for all we know. Here you go, Marty, you were there, dude. I don't know if you know that, but and then we can change it back just as fast. Alright, so it's super easy to fix. We've got 2 marksmen now, 2 saw gunners, a assault rifle, or assault carbine, 1 grenade launcher guy, or one operator carrying a grenade launcher, and our interpreter. Those are the names that were there. Whether or not the names are with the right weapons, we can adjust later on. Bub wasn't there. I didn't think so. It didn't make it look like he was there, so I didn't include him so far. I'll just kind of keep this off to the side as a map, or as a reference on the side of the map. Alright, so our, at least for the moment, our pieces are all made up. They're ready to go. What I might do later, if there's room on the base, is I'll put in the attack dice for their weapon. So yeah, there's really only 4 types. There's a light machine gun, there's a grenade, there's a carbine, and there's a marksman. We're trying to keep this kind of simple. The complicated part of this game is going to be that shifting militia mechanic and mood of the street kind of thing. So as far as actual, caliber of the weapons and range and firepower and rate of fire and impact and armor and all that, oh my god, here we go, oh my god, we are going to kind of, round all that off in interest of a good game. On Marty, I was just demonstrating how easy it was to change the names of these operators. So I just made one of the operators Marty for a second. You are a gaming piece in the game for about 2.5 seconds. Alright, so we have the black SUV that we know was there. Whether or not there were any Mercedes there, I'm not sure. I've been told that they are, so I'm going to go ahead and trust that. And another thing we're going to do today is we're going to go ahead and get our Mercedes going. So I have a 4-door. Might be a little too modern. I think this is like a 2019 or a 2020 model, but fine for 2012. It's all good. We have a Mercedes 4-door sedan here. We're going to go ahead and assume it's armored, and we're going to go ahead and leave that sunroof in there so that people in the vehicle can fire out of it from any angle, because we don't want to get super into unit facings or any kind of crazy stuff like that. The only thing we really have to change on this is its size and its color, because I doubt it was white or gray. I'm going to try to make it a little dark, a little bit like, so it matches that SUV that we have. So I'm going to select the layer first of all, because I'm not dumb. Actually, I'm going to duplicate the layer, so if I really screw it up, I can go back. I know you all miss my Photoshop streams. The world's most boring streams. Lightness, I don't want to do that via lightness. I want to do it versus brightness contrast. Alright. This is going to be really simple, I think. I wanted to make it look a little bit more like this. So we're going to play around. Again, I don't have my Wacom pad hooked up right now. I know better than to even try that. So I'm having to do all this with a mouse, which is not how to do graphic design, folks. If you're an actual graphic designer, yeah, trust me, you want to go with a Wacom pad. But, again, I'm kind of stuck with what OBS is letting me do here. Alright, so I'm going to go to Shadows. I got my My dodge tool here, which lightens shadows, and I'm trying to put a little bit of a shine on the front of the vehicle. It's not strong enough. Oof, that's really strong now. Now it's converted all the shadows to midtones, so I'm going to switch over to midtones. And now we're going to do one more with highlights. Highlights might be really intense. Let's see here. Yeah, that's woof. All right, cool. And again, what I'm trying to do with the front of that Mercedes is sort of give it that front shine that we see here on the SUV. So I'm trying to make the vehicles match a little bit. So this is a pretty good source image. I can probably play around with this a little bit. In other words, the resolution is high enough for me to do some pretty reasonable pixel selections. So I've got those two selected. Let's see here. Let's get some turn signals going here. Who wants some turn signals in your vehicle? Because hey, when you're fighting a Libyan militia, that doesn't give you an excuse to ignore the traffic rules. You still have to obey the traffic laws. Was it that time they say in one of the James Bond movies? You have a license to kill 007, not break the traffic laws. Alright, cool. Also, again, it's not really, it may or may not be accurate, but with a vehicle or any kind of gaming piece this monochromatic, it's literally blacks and grays. I'm like, dude, can we have just a little bit of color somewhere? I don't even care where, but, like, I'm not going to add any taillights in this, but I'm not going to get that desperate. There's also a little bit more of a shine on the windshield here, so I'm going to go ahead and select the windshield piece. Hopefully it will let me do that with no problem. It lets me do that with no problem. That's the nice thing about starting off with a nice source image. Cool, we're going to go back to our burn tool, and we're going to go back to shadows, because we're starting off with shadows. And we're going to sort of work our way up from the shadows here. We're trying to put that that little bit of a whatchamacallit glare. Again, this would be a lot easier if I had my Wacom pad going right now, but such is life. It's got something to do with actually, you know what? Hold on. It's got something to do with what OBS does to my display driver. Let's do them all at once, so I don't have to switch back and forth between different sizes of the brush and different whether or not I'm using the whether or not my dodge tool is aimed at shadows, midtones, or highlights. By the way, I had the Battle of Oriskany built in whatchamacallit. I had the Battle of Oriskany built in People's General American Revolution mod, but and I was kind of gonna run that today, but I was like, you know what? I think do something a little bit more team focused. And I figured after the Waterloo stream that we had on Thursday, you guys were a little tired of black powder. Or, you know, let's not do 2 black powder streams in a row. We're obviously expanding into different areas of historical wargaming, not just moderns. At the same time, moderns are our roots, so we don't want to neglect or alienate our original viewers or our original mandate. So now my whatchamacallit tool, my dodge tool, not dodge. Is it my dodge? It is my dodge tool. Sorry. My dodge tool is focused on highlights, so it's ignoring the shadows and midtones and it's just gonna brighten up the highlights. And that's kind of what I'm aiming at there. Last but not least, I'm gonna get a straight out white paintbrush. I'm going to knock the hardness down to 0. I'm going to make it nice and big because I want a big nebulous kind of a cloud effect. So my hardness is at 0. My size on my brush is way up. Kind of what Jen says about me every once in a while. Your size is up, but your hardness is down. And there's where we lose our PG rating. No, but in all seriousness, all right, we have. Okay, the other thing I want to knock down is the opacity. I don't want to have this be like super white blast of. Alrighty, I would hit the general like a blur tool or remove noise rule or whatever, or not the tool I should say, to kind of get rid of some of that onion ring. I don't know what the actual term is for it. I call it the onion ring effect that we see here in some of these gradients. That gradient looks a little choppy, but if I do that, I will lose that little bit of detail we get of the inside of the vehicle. We can see the little tail light there. We can see the passenger seat, the driver's seat, a little bit of the dashboard, the steering column. So I'm gonna, when everything else fails, do it manually. Or into my blur tool. I'm going to see if I can get away with this on a small manual basis. And the answer is not really. Alright, I'm going to sort of give up on my selection here. And I'm going to go to a lasso selection with a little bit of a cloud effect. Or a feathered effect. Call it 15. Nah, call it 10. Alright. Kind of a crossing the Rubicon moment, because now we've given up our. I mean, I'm sure there are ways to save that selection. You could do it as a separate layer and keep it. Yeah, fine. We're making up a tiny little gaming piece. That's all good. But for now, we're going to go ahead and blur this a little bit. That wasn't enough. We're going to blur some more. Filter, blur, Gaussian blur. Oof, that's too much. There we go. So now we've gotten rid of that onion ring effect in our gradient there, but we've managed to maintain our levels of detail on the vehicle interior. I mean, at least a little. I mean, are you ever going to see the car interior in the actual game? Probably not, but it's easy to fix, and as long as we're here, let's just go ahead and get it done. There we go. Alright, so there's our Mercedes. My selection magic wand tool, I'm going to select that yellow again for my headlights, or for my turn signals. I'm going to get a brighter version of yellow in there. I'm going to put a highlight in those super fast, because madness. Talk about things you'll probably never see, but you guys probably can't even see it now. But there's a little bit of a highlight there in the turn signals. Cool. And anyway, there is our sedan. So I'm going to go ahead and save that. Oops. Yes, save it as a PNG, please. Replace the old one, because I don't need the old one anymore. This isn't modern. Isn't modern black powder? No. Hey, what a poor Jen. What do you mean poor Jen? You would never see those onion rings on the map. Yeah, probably not. No, I'm just cracking jokes. Hey, you're allowed to be as insulting as you want in a stream, as long as you're cracking on yourself. Effacing humor or self-effacing humor almost always works. Alright, so now I'm going to insert a new picture. Pretty please. And we're going to get a sedan in there. Oof, my god, that sedan is Godzilla sized. Alright, we're going to reduce that. And we're going to make it roughly the same size as, or maybe a little bit smaller than the SUV, because SUVs are usually a little bit bigger than sedans. Or so I've been told. And there we go. Now we have a Mercedes sedan to go with the SUV. So no matter what we finally decide to include in our game, whether 2 SUVs, 2 sedans, 1 of each, doesn't matter, Oriskany is prepared for both, because all battles are won or lost in the preparation. So the idea is to be as prepared as possible. Speaking of vehicles, why should the GRS have all the fun? You guys know what I'm talking about. I'm talking about technicals. I don't know if there were any technicals on the actual field, for the actual event. I call it a field. At the actual incident, but I think there are in the movie, so why not? We are going to change picture. And I have a technical prepared, because of course I do. Boom, the big old douche on the back. Alright, so we've got plenty of insurgents. We've got plenty of insurgents. And this is like half the force. And again, if need be, I can go into Photoshop and build literally hundreds more. And I don't mean like the same one copied over and over again. I can build another 1,000 of these easy. Well, let's call it 1,000. That's a pretty conservative estimate. And have them all be unique. Obviously, we won't need nearly that many, but such is life. But we're prepared to build a bunch for however many we need. Obviously, or I should say, if that many insurgents appear on the table, I believe we can just call it that the GRS has already lost. So the GRS not only has to defeat again, I've said this a couple times now, has to defeat the insurgents that are on the table and get to their actual either front or back gate here on the of the actual embassy, or, well, I should they have to get there, but they also have to keep or do whatever they can to minimize the number of new insurgents that appear. So that's going to be the challenge. So the map is coming along. We've got gaming pieces for insurgent vehicles, for all kinds of insurgent ground troops. We've got all the GRS guys now lined up and ready to go. The only thing we might have to change on the GRS guys is the names that go with the certain weapons. We have both vehicles ready. We've got several possible routes kind of picked out that the GRS player can take. There's the historical route that we've already gone over, which is certainly an option, and it's going to have its benefits. The GRS guys probably picked that route in real life for a reason. And there are reasons to choose the exact same route in our 13 days to 13 hours transit game. However, you don't have to. Choosing other routes are an option, and there are game incentives to choose those other routes. There are also penalties. So again, it's always like a 6 in one hand, half dozen in the other kind of a thing. So the players have choices, and they can choose whether they want to go slow and sneaky or fast and fast and noisy. And both sides, or I should say, both options have merit, or a combination of the merits. You could be on surface streets part of the way, and back roads the rest of the way, driving through people's backyards. It's that's all good. The game will accommodate you. Alright guys, so we've been up now for about an hour and a half. I think that's going to about do it for us today. We've met a couple of pretty good accomplishments. We have a new piece made with our SUV. I'm sorry, with our sedan, which I might darken a little. It looks a little too bright. Let me see if I can do that here in Excel without going back to Photoshop. I'll go back to Photoshop if I have to, but I might be able to cheat and get away with it here. Brightness. Knock the brightness down to -10 and the contrast up to +10. Let's see if that does anything. It looks a little closer. I'm just trying to make these two vehicles look like they came from the same place. Like they belong to the same quote-unquote army. But, cool. Okay, so they had technicals and the annex. Okay, cool. So a golf cart. Okay, now I have to make up a golf cart piece. Thanks, guys. I appreciate it. Yeah, okay, hold on. I'm catching up on the chat here, guys. The G-Man deserves a nice ride. What G-Man? Oh, the G-Man. Gotcha. Black powder is definitely modern warfare when compared to ancient Rome and medieval battles. Yeah, depending on how big of a box you draw. For people in the chat, again, to be semi-serious, here at the Sitrep, we define modern warfare as post-1945. And the reason we do that is because because modern warfare really doesn't have very much to do with technology. What it has to do with is doctrine, training, and overall background context, the societal, cultural context in which these wars take place. Not to get too, highbrow about it, but after World War II, you have the atomic bomb, you have the United Nations, you have very shortly television, and then later on, starting in the 1990s, you have the internet. In other words, you have mass media. Mass media that the government cannot control, no matter how dictatorial the government is. Even the Russians don't control YT to 100%. They don't control, or VT, whatever it is they call it, their version of Facebook. I game almost every 2 weeks or so with a guy in Shanghai, and there are ways through the internet there. Trust me, no government controls the media to 100%. That plus the UN, plus international opinion, plus the atomic bomb, plus everything else. Long story short, take your first shot. Modern war is limited. That whole Clausewitzian model has flown out the window, and it's never coming back. God help us if it ever does, because that will be the last day of the human race. If total war ever really comes back in the modern setting, hang it up. We're all for the cockroaches at that point. So that's where you get this asymmetrical, non-linear, very limited kind of warfare that sort of defines modern warfare. That's not entirely a construct of post-1945, but that's when it becomes the new law of the land. You're not really going to see another total war, at least not between major powers. You probably saw something like that in Iran, Iraq, 80 to 88. Vietnam v. Cambodia, 1978. Between smaller nations, every once in a while, you'll see a real throwdown. But from here on out, it's about small forces, elite forces, minimal impact, minimum kinetics. Keep it out of the news and get it over with as soon as humanly possible. Warfare is not... it's going out of fashion, thank God. I think the human race might finally be growing up a little bit. But... we'll have this conversation again in 20 years, and we'll see if I was right. But that's why we call it modern warfare. So anything post-45. So, yes, this would definitely count as modern warfare. Hey, Mr. Ben, how you doing, sir? Jen Lemon says that you're bored out of your mind? Oh, no. That's messed up, man. I see how it is. Ben, how you doing? Ben Johnson over there in YouTube chat. I saw your chat this time, guys. Sorry about that. Last time he was making comments and I totally missed it. That's my younger brother. Also Amphibious Monster on Tabletop. What are you guys doing today? How are we guys doing today? Yeah, we're doing okay. We're doing good. We are, this is Ben, you may have missed it before, but what we're working on here is a long-term, we started in January, and then we had to take a break because of various things, but we're kind of getting back into it. We're doing 13 days to 13 hours. Basically, we're on the clock, hence the stopwatch up there. Our team is putting in 13 man days, for lack of a better word, or however many man hours that is, 13 days worth of man hours to create the 2012 Benghazi attacks. The way it's going to work is, again, we have new people in the chat, so apologize to everybody who already knows this. The way it's going to work is I am building the transit game. I am building the game that tracks whether or not when the U.S. Embassy, or Embassy Annex, when the U.S. Embassy mission right here comes under attack by Libyan militia, what happens when the GRS private military contractors try to get there as soon as they can? So we have like this nighttime actual photograph of Benghazi at the time. We have the real streets, the real buildings, and we're going to try and get, we're going to see if the GRS can get there in time. Now, as far as victory conditions go, this is the victory condition table. How many turns it takes for the GRS player to get there? 6. In real life, it took them 7 minutes. So each turn is a minute in this game. So that's the historical result right there. If you can beat that, the GRS player wins. If you fail that, the insurgents win. But again, it's not just up to me, and that's the nature of this project. Okay, if you get there in 1 turn, which is impossible, the ambassador, that's Ambassador Stevens, is safe. 2 turns, he's safe. 3 turns, he's safe. 4 turns, his building's on fire, and he's starting to suck down some smoke. It's mild, he's mild, moderate, high is what actually happened. Unfortunately, in real life, Ambassador Stevens, with all respect, he did pass away from smoke inhalation, last I read. And then severe, dire, and if you get there on turn 10 or afterwards, he's automatically lost. So the reason I sort of left this threat table as far as Ambassador Stevens' status nebulous is, again, I'm only running the transit game. Once we have this game and we find out how bad the situation is at the actual embassy mission, that's when that's when Marty and Gianna run, and Gaz as well, I think, run their miniature table up there in Chicago. They're building an 8x4 20mm scale model of the actual embassy mission, and they're going to do the actual attack on the compound. So they've got some vehicles to build. Gaz has been working for months and weeks on painting up all these miniatures. G and Marty have also been painting up miniatures. I'm pretty sure the armies are mostly ready to go. Gaz, is that true? I don't know. We'll have to see. Not lost years convinces them to join them and his own full army to protect them. Do I have any barriers for the VCPs, Jen? Barriers. You mean like roadblocks? Yes, we will have roadblocks. I haven't made that. Roadblocks are here in the rules. Blocks and so on. I have not yet. VCPs, vehicles. Okay. So I have not. I haven't made the pieces for them yet, but they are in the rules. Yes, I will have roadblocks. And you will get some roadblocks to set up, Gaz, as the insurgent player, and then later on, more roadblocks might appear, again, depending on what happens here on the street table. Marty says, yep, we just need to build terrain and the actual board. Yeah, so the armies are ready. The transit game is mostly ready, or at least it's getting there. I'd say we're over 50%. The pieces are made. Most of the pieces are made, I should say. And the board is built. I have to make a few more small game function pieces. I have to build a turn track. I have to build a threat tracker. Which is like super fast. I have to make some civilian pieces. A few small things like civilian vehicles. That's going to be super easy. A few tiny little things here and there. And then we'll be ready for playtesting. We're going to see if this game actually works. That's going to be the fun part. So Ben, to answer your question, the way we're doing is a cool way of simulating all the variables involved. Yeah, so what we're going to do is we're going to do the transit game. We're going to see how well the GRS private military contractors actually reach the site, how fast they do it, or how slow they do it, and that's going to affect the starting conditions of the actual 28mm miniature game up there in the Midwest, just outside of Chicago. So then they're going to play that. And then, based on who makes it through that game, living, dead, wounded, who knows what, we are going to have a second transit game, which is probably going to be a lot faster, but a real quick transit wrap-up game where, okay, now all the good guys are here in the embassy, and they can either go out the front gate or the back gate, and they have to get back to the CIA annex. And of course, as everyone probably knows, historically, that's where a second huge battle then took place, including everything from mortar fire, RPGs. They hit that CIA annex really hard in a second battle that we won't be doing. We could if we wanted to. Maybe not in miniature, but we'll see how the community kind of responds to this. So we've been working on this off and on since January, and we're still not even at the main embassy compound yet. So we don't want to bite off more than we can chew. Okay, guys. Let me catch up a little bit more on Mr. Chat here. Cool. Yeah, it's definitely. Ben says in YouTube that's badass. Yeah, thank you very much, sir. But it's a team effort. So we have. Again, I'm just in charge of this little hex encounter part of it. After that, the rest of the team is building a huge 8x4, 8 foot by 4 foot, 20 millimeter scaled version of the thing, of the actual embassy compound that's under attack. I'm going to keep calling it the embassy compound. I know it's not really the U.S. embassy in Libya, but it's like an embassy mission or embassy annex. It's fine. You guys know what I'm talking about. There's the place that's under attack, and then there's the place everyone's trying to get to. All right. So again, the map is done. The pieces are mostly done. The game is designed for the most part. I just have to do a little bit of play testing. But we're getting there, folks. I know we've been talking about this since January, and I know that people might think that perhaps justifiably that we've forgotten about this. I assure you we have not. Will it be on YouTube when we're ready to play it? Yes, we are aiming for the anniversary of the event. Ben, this took place on the night of September 11th to 12th, 2012. So the 11th anniversary of the September 11th attacks. So we have recommitted ourselves on a recent podcast to get this project done, live, streamed, in the can, ready to go by September 12th of this year. So we have like, what is that, 3 months left? We have a fair amount of work to do. We really do. So I just didn't want to make sure. I wanted to make sure that I didn't, I didn't fall behind. So I got back on it this weekend. This is what we did this weekend instead of gaming. Is we got ready for a big game coming up in the fall. Gaz says, I plan on us not needing the miniature table at all. Gaz, that's entirely possible. That is entirely possible. In that event, what we'll probably just do, just so we don't ruin the whole project, is we'll just rerun the game, and we'll make sure that at least some GRS guys make it to the embassy compound so that they can actually have a game up there in Chicago. But at the same time, it is possible. It could happen. I mean, one RPG at the wrong time in the wrong place. And that could be all she wrote. The car would flip over. Everyone has to bail out of the car or whatever. Now, as far as victory conditions and scale of the game goes, like I said, historically they made it there in 7 minutes. Using the historical route, it comes out to 34 hexes. So you get there in 3.5 turns. The speed of a vehicle is 10 on a good road, 4 on a crappy road, and it's 2 on foot. So that works out to roughly 40 miles an hour, 20 miles an hour, and like 7 miles an hour for a guy on like a dead sprint. So like that comes out to like a 9-minute mile or so, 7 miles an hour. So yeah, that's the general the general scale of the game. You could get there in 3.5 minutes. That's if you could drive there and no one was shooting at you. If it was on a normal clear night. Again, the historical route, they started off here, 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 there, and then down this paved road to the front gate where there was a huge mob of people. They got there in 7 minutes. So what they're probably going to have to do, like they did in the movie, is they're probably going to have to set up some shooters here in these buildings across the street, and they're going to have to shoot their way into that front gate. Because that front gate is where there was a huge mob. That's going to be a major spawn point for insurgent forces. Later on in the battle, a smaller crowd did gather at the back gate. So what the GRS player might decide to do instead is get to the back gate. But again, the back gate, it's longer to get there because this street is going to be hella mobbed. This major 4-lane highway here with all kinds of people. Lots of roadblocks, lots of civilian vehicles, RPGs, technicals. That's going to be hell's highway right there. Can the GRS player sneak there using these back roads? These back roads are on the table for a reason. I mean, maybe they can do that. They can get to the back gate and get through there faster. It's going to be harder, but when they get there, they won't have to deal with that huge mob in front. Again, the game offers choices. Choice, 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 choice. So, again, that also enhances replayability. I'll be damned if I spend, 40 or 50 hours on building a game that people play once for 90 minutes and then it's done. Yeah, I want this game to be able to, if anyone's interested, to play it 20 times if they want and try 20 different approaches. I don't know if there's 20 approaches to get here, but there are at least 10, in all seriousness. 10 different, viable routes to get there. Pick one, go for it, and see what happens. Schaefer calls BS. I hope that's on Gaz and not on me, Marty. It depends on how quiet the GRS can keep the streets. So you're almost like a policeman. You have to keep the mob under control. If you can just use your interpreter, be quiet, be stealthy, avoid the mobs, don't shoot at the first thing that moves. What you're going to be able to do is you're going to apply negative modifiers to this threat tracker, and as that threat tracker goes from tense to quiet or serene, that in turn applies modifiers to these three columns here. And that's when nothing new pops up on the street. Enemy hexes, what I mean enemy hexes is all the insurgents in a given hex start to become ambivalent or start to become friendly if they're already ambivalent. They can literally switch sides. You can talk them over to your side. And also, new mobs that show up are going to be ambivalent or unknown or friendly. So you're going to get, random civilians running around too that are on your side. And again, the game accounts for all that. Or again, we haven't play tested any of this yet. We're hoping the objective is to make the game reflect the mood of the street. And the less kinetic, the less hardcore, guns blazing, tires squealing, the GRS is, if the GRS can kind of keep it in their pants for a little bit, they're going to apply some big time positive modifiers on these tables and directly impact Gaz's reinforcements. On the other hand, Gaz can set off IEDs, he can start shooting. It doesn't matter who shoots, or for the GRS it matters who shoots, but it doesn't matter who sets off explosions. As long as there were explosions, people hear explosions, they grab guns and they come out of the house, and they're ready to start, they're ready to throw down. If they start hearing that there's drama out in the street, they're going to come out and join the street party. So Gaz is trying to stir things up as the insurgent player. G and Marty are going to try and calm things down as a GRS player, but the real objective is going to be getting to that annex. And if they can get to that annex, getting to that annex is going to be a lot easier if they can keep the street kind of calm down. And that's literally about half the game. Here's the turn sequence. Half the game is determining what mood the street is in and determining what happens when the street is in that mood. After that, you get to actual movement and combat. So that was sort of what attracted me to the project. Okay, guys, so I'm going to call real quick, hoping to make them walk back. There you go. Catching up on chat one more time before I close out the stream. Thanks very much, guys, who says, nice job tonight, Jim. I appreciate it. India and China might be next. India and China have thrown down before. They threw down big time in 1962. Thankfully, it wasn't nuclear. I don't think they had the atomic bomb yet. I think China set off their first test in 63 or 64. But yeah, that's definitely a threat, for damn sure. So yeah, Marty says that they just need to build the terrain in the actual board. Just a handful left in the USA. All right, cool. So we're talking about miniatures again. Staggered ones on the roads. Yeah. So I'm going to build. So Gaz is asking about roadblocks. Yeah, we're totally going to build roadblocks. I don't have the pieces for it yet, but again, you do see them in the rules. I totally. Those are totally on the way. We are totally working on those. Hoping to make them walk back. Thanks very much, Marty, for fine work, Jim. I appreciate it. Yeah, we're gonna make this 13 days to 13 hours game happen after all. I think we're at about 4 days so far. We've put about 96 hours. The team combined has put about 96 hours of work into this project so far. So we're down about 4 days. We have 9 days left. We're trying to do 13 days to 13 hours is general theme of the project there. Games like this where the result of one affects the start of the next one are fun. Yep. It is almost like a mini campaign mode. Yeah, that's right, Ben. That's totally true. Cool. All right. We used to play a grav tank game a little like this. Yeah, it was Centurion for Renegade Legions. Still one of my favorite. I'm not a big sci-fi guy anymore, but I mean Darkstar notwithstanding, but still one of my favorite sci-fi war games was old Renegade Legion Centurion by Faza back in the day. Cool. Thanks very much, Chip. Looks great. I can't wait to see the whole game. Yeah, you and me both. I just hope it works. The combat system's going to be easy enough. It's the usual, D10 versus D8. It's a little bit of a force-on-force ripoff. Again, we're trying to keep this super easy because there's a lot of complexity and nuance in other parts of the game. So I wanted to try and save a little bit of our brain real estate, so to speak, for that other part. So the actual shooting and moving part of the game is going to be pretty blunt. It's going to be pretty easy. And also the battle is really small. 6 combatants and 2 vehicles. That's one whole side. The other side's going to be about twice that. Again, depending on the mood of the street and depending on what Gaz does with his reinforcements. But it's not going to be this huge, Prokhorovka, 10,000 people. We're not doing Waterloo again. That's for damn sure. So thanks again, as always, everybody. Keep an eye out for our content coming up this week. We're going to have, I don't want to put him on the spot here, but I think we're going to have something from Gaz on Tuesday, and then our general show is on Thursday. That's going to be either Gianna or Marty or both or either. I'm not sure what's going on there. And again, with me, it's Sundays. Usually about this time, 2 o'clock Eastern, so that's 1 p.m. in the Central, and then that's 7 p.m. over there in jolly old England. And, yeah. All right, guys, thanks very much for all your support. Have a great week going forward. Stay safe. Stay inside whenever you can. Stay home. Well, yeah, you guys know the drill by now. We're on like day, 110 of quarantine or something. So take it easy, everybody, and I will see everyone this week coming up. Thanks again.